Page 75, Beautiful Brown Eyes. On page 73, they're introducing a new note for the left hand. Actually, it's a new note for the bass clef. Doesn't matter which hand plays it. And that is 2 ledger lines above the staff. Remember, let's review because it's important you really understand this. A staff is the collection of 5 lines. Well, with only 5 lines and 4 spaces, you only have so many notes. It's like 9 notes, or actually 11 notes that you can show. We got more notes than that. So we simply use these little lines and we just pile them up below or above the staff so we can add more notes. We've already had the C. That's one of those little lines above the staff. And the lines above or below a staff work exactly the same way the lines in a staff, it's every other note. So if that's a C, then 2 lines would be an E, 3, G, 4 lines would be a B, and it just keeps going. They all work the same way. The idea is, though, you got to learn some of these notes. You don't have to learn them like 5 ledger lines. What is that note? Forget that. I can't even count 5 ledger lines. I have to stop and I have to count them. I can't see them and know there's 5 of them there. But I can do 2 ledger lines. Actually, I can do 3 because I'm good. So whatever you can see at a glance and know those are the notes you need to memorize. So this is 2 ledger lines above. So 1 ledger line is 2. That's an E. That's where it is on the keyboard. It's right above the E. And just know it's an E. You've already had the E down here. Now we got an E up here. Okay. So we have the G chord, and now we get the C chord, which the thumb moves up here. Remember when we were back in C and we moved the thumb up to get the F chord? This is the same thing except we're in G position. That's all. And you'll get this for the right hand eventually, but this is what we're studying right now. So you need to learn to just recognize that chord in the music. You see it at the bottom of the page in this middle measure. That's the C chord we're talking about. I mean, you think, well, this is a C chord. Yes, but remember it's the names of the notes, not the arrangement. So if I take the G and I put it on the bottom, that's this arrangement. It's still a C chord. So let's talk Beautiful Brown Eyes because we get this chord here. 3/4 time, the treble and bass clef. There's 4 lines long. There's no repeat sign. We got pedal in this too. We'll talk about that when we talk about the pedal. And we got quarter notes and half notes and dotted half notes, and I think we can handle that. And you look at the left hand, you get these chords. So we'll cover that too. So right hand first. Let's make sure we got the rhythm and the notes and all that. 3rd finger on B, so we're still in G position. And it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, tie, 2. Remember the tie? The little line that connects those 2 C's together, you just tie them together, hold them down, and hold it down for 5 counts. The other curved line, that's phrasing, that's part of articulation. I talk about that later. But 2nd line. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So you go through in the right hand, make sure you can get those notes. Left hand, we're starting out with the G chord. And that's tied. All 3 of those notes are tied, and that's the way they have to do chords. When you have multiple notes, you have to have a curved line for each note because we don't have to tie all the notes together. So hold them all down for 6 counts, and then we have the C chord. And this is a broken chord pattern, another type of broken chord. I'm just lowering the hand down here. Try and get them down at the same time. And then here. And then the 2nd line, you get the D7 chord. The little finger comes down. Okay, so that's the left hand. Try and put them together. What could possibly go wrong here? Get the idea? You go through and put them together. And then go back through and get rid of any hesitations you've got. The speed is not important right now, but it must be a steady beat. It would also help if you could get to where you could play this without looking at the keyboard, because you need to develop that feel for the keyboard, and this idea of moving a finger over to get a different note or a black key or whatever. We want to develop that feel. So work on also not looking at the keyboard. Then once you do all that, we think about the articulation. Well, that's the phrases in the right hand. Connect all this together. At the end of the line, then lift up. It's like taking a breath. Just as 1, 2, 3, lift up. So I'm just cutting the last note of the line a little bit short so I got time to lift up, because the beat is steady all the way through. The left hand, there's no articulation given. You play the left hand as legato as you can, or as connected as you can for now. In these broken chords, you can connect the first one, but not the second one. I tend to, it's an interpretation, I tend to play this kind of a pattern in 3/4 time. I do that as a chuck, 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 chuck. So I'll connect the first two notes, and then I separate the rest. Like so. That is interpretation. We're not really doing too much with interpretation yet, but we will. And that's one of the things you can do. Now, then dynamics, well, MF is mezzo forte, or moderately loud. That's the melody. Whatever you think moderately loud is, keep these chords soft. We want to hear the melody. That's what it is. Don't play the melody louder so it can be louder than the left hand. Play the melody where it belongs, and you practice and learn to play the left hand as soft as you need to. Speed, tempo, moderately fast, between moderate and fast, somewhere. Feel it. What do you think? There is words to this song. They don't have them in this book, but there are. So think about if you were singing words, how fast would you sing it? Huh? That's how fast you would go. Then, once I have all that down, then we think about adding the pedal. It's the same style of pedaling we've been doing. We're pedaling here the last two measures of each line. See, a lot of times in these method books, I don't agree with their pedaling, and I adjust it. Because as I said before, we only pedal for specific reasons, and if you don't understand why you're pedaling, then I prefer you not pedal. Just don't. But here, it's providing contrast between this and this. See, those two things sound different. One without overtones, one with overtones. This is, just something to listen very carefully. Because in theory, we could pedal the whole thing, but let's leave that to theory. Let's not do that here. So on the third measure, when I do it, I'm going to push the notes down first and then the pedal. And then at the end of the line, I lift the pedal up with the hands so we get a little silence before we go on. And all of them are done the same way. I'm asking you to be very conscious, listen very carefully to the effect the pedal is having to the sound all the time you're doing this. You want to know what it sounds like without pedal, you want to know what it sounds like with pedal, and understand the difference in the sound. People tend to just pedal everything and they stop listening, and that's very unfortunate. Please don't get into the habit, and it will be a habit, where you just stop listening and you just automatically pedal everything. People would sit down and just pedal this. And to them it would sound fine. Well, it only sounds fine because they're not really listening. Because it doesn't sound fine. I'd like to play this with you slowly to double check the notes and the rhythms and all. I'm not going to do any dynamics. I'm going to play both hands about the same loudness so you can hear them. So just make sure you're playing the same note I'm playing at the same time so you have all the correct notes down. I will pedal it as it's shown. So I'll give us 3 counts and let's try it together. 1, ready, go.